Talk tools, connection, get personal. Knowledge can't be passed into a brain. It has to be pulled in. Before you can put an idea in someone else's mind, you need their permission. People are naturally cautious about opening up their minds, the most precious thing they own, to complete strangers. You need to find a way to overcome that caution. And the way you do that is to make visible the human being cowering inside you. Hearing a talk is a completely different thing from reading an essay. It's not just the words, not at all. It's the person delivering the words. To make an impact, there has to be a human connection. You can give the most brilliant talk with crystal clear explanations and laser sharp logic. But if you don't first connect with the audience, it just won't land. Even if the content is, at some level, understood, it won't be activated but simply filled away in some soon to be forgotten mental archive. People aren't computers. They are social creatures with all manner of ingenious quirks. They have evolved weapons to protect against dangerous knowledge, polluting the worldview they depend on. Those weapons have names: skepticism, mistrust, dislike, boredom, incomprehension. And by the way, those weapons are infallible. If your mind were open to all incoming language, your life would quickly fall apart. Coffee gives you cancer. Those foreigners are disgusting. Buy these beautiful kitchen knives. I know how to give you a good time, baby. Every single thing we see or hear is evaluated before we dare embed into an actionable idea. So your very first job as a speaker is to find a way to disarm those weapons and build a trusting human bond with the audience so that they are willing, delighted, even to offer you full access to their minds for a few minutes. If military metaphors are not to your liking, let's go back to the idea of a talk as a journey. It is a journey you take your audience on. You may have figured out a brilliant road to a powerful destination, but before you can take people there, you have to make the journey seem enticing. Task 1 is to go where the audience is and win them over. Yes, you are a guide who can be trusted. Without that, the whole endeavor may break down before it has even started. We tell our speakers that TED offers a warm, welcoming audience, but even so, there is a huge difference in impact between those speakers who connect and those who unconsciously trigger skepticism or boredom or dislike. Hopefully, there are numerous ways to make that vital early connection. Here are 5 suggestions. Make eye contact right from the start. Humans are good at forming instant judgments about other humans, friend or foe, likable or unlike, wise or dull, confident or tentative. The clues we use to make these sweeping judgments are often shockingly alike. The way someone dresses, how they walk or stand, their facial expression, their body language, their attentiveness. Great speakers find a way of making an early connection with their audience. It can be as simple as walking confidently on stage, looking around, making eye contact with 2 or 3 people, and smiling. Took a look at the first few moments of Kelly McGonigal's TID talk in The Upside of Stress. I have a confession to make. She pauses, turns, drops hands, gives a little smile. But first, I want you to make a little confession to me. Walks forward. In the past year, looks around intently from face to face. I want you to just raise your hand if you have experienced relatively little stress. Anyone? An enigmatic smile, which a few moments later turns into $1 million smile. There is instant audience connection there. Now, not at all. Now, not all of us are as naturally fluent, relaxed, or beautiful as Kelly. But one thing we can all do is make eye contact with audience members and smile a little. It makes a huge difference. The Indian artist Raghava KK maintains great eye contact, as does Argentina democracy advocate Pia Mancini. Within seconds of them starting, you just feel yourself being reeled in. There is a reason for this. Humans have evolved a sophisticated ability to read other people by looking at their eyes. We can subconsciously detect the tiniest movement of eye muscles in someone's face and use it to judge not just how they are feeling, but whether we can trust them. And while we are doing that, they are doing the same to us. Scientists have shown that just the act of 2 people staring at each other will trigger mirror neuron activity that literally adopts the emotional state of the other person. If I'm beaming, I will make you smile inside, just a bit, but a meaningful bit. If I'm nervous, you will feel a little anxious too. We look at each other and our minds sync. And the extent to which our minds sync is determined in part by how much we instinctively trust each other. The best tool to engender the trust, yup, a smile. A natural human smile. People can detect fake smiles and immediately feel manipulated. Ron Goodman gave a TID talk in the hidden power of smiles. It's well worth 7.5 minutes of your time. Eye contact, backed by an occasional warm smile, is an amazing technology that can transform how a talk is received. It's a shame tough that it's sometimes undermined by another technology, state lightning. Some lightning setups mean a speaker is dazzled by bright spotlight and can't even see the audience. Talk to the event organizer about this ahead of time. If you're on stage and feeling disconnected, it's okay to ask for the house light to be raised or the stage light dimmed a little. At TAD, our number 1 advice to speakers on the day of their talk is to make regular eye contact with members of the audience. Be warm, be real, be you. It opens the door to them trusting you, liking you, and beginning to share your passion. When you walk into the stage, you should be thinking about one thing: your true excitement at the chance to share your passion with the people sitting right there a few feet from you. Don't rush in with your opening sentence. Walk into the light, pick out a couple of people, look them in the eye, nod a greeting, and smile, then you are on your way. Show vulnerability. One of the best ways to disarm an audience to first reveal your own vulnerability. It's the equivalent one of the tough cowboy walking into salon and holding his coat wide open to reveal no weapons. Everyone relaxes. Brand Brown gave a wonderful talk on vulnerability at TEDx Houston, and she began it appropriately. A couple years ago, an event planner called me because I was going to the speaking event, and she said, "I'm really struggling with how to write about you on the little flyer." And I thought, well, what's the struggle? And she said, well, I saw you speak, and I'm going to call you a researcher. I think, but I'm afraid if I call you a researcher, no one will come because they will think you are boring and irrelevant. You love her already. By the same logic, if you are feeling nervous, it can actually work in your favor. Audiences sense it instantly, and far from despising you, as you may fear, the opposite happens. They begin rooting for you. We often encourage speakers who look like they may struggle with nervous to simply be ready, if necessary, to acknowledge it. If you feel yourself choking up, then pause, pick up a bottle of water, take a sip, and just say what you're feeling. Hang in there a moment. As you can see, I'm feeling a little nervous here. Normal service will be restored soon. Likely as not, you will get a warm round of applause and a crowd dying for you to succeed. Vulnerability can be powerful at any stage of a talk. One of the most stunning moments witnessed in the TED stage came when neurosurgeon and best-selling author Sherwin Nuland had just completed a tour de force history of electroshock therapy, a treatment for severe mental illness that involves sending electric current directly through a patient's brain. He knows knowledgeable, and funny, and he made it all seem interesting, if a little terrifying, but then he stopped. Why am I telling you this history at this meeting? He said he wanted to share something he'd never spoken or written about before. You could have heard a pin drop. The reason is that I am a man who, almost 30 years ago, had his life saved by 2 long courses of electroshock therapy. Nuland went on to unveil his own secret history of debilitating depression and illness that got so bad doctors were planning to remove part of his brain. Instead, as a last resort, they tried electroshock therapy, and eventually, after 20 treatments, it had worked. By making himself so deeply vulnerable to the audience, he was able to end his talk with extraordinary power. I have always felt that somehow I was an impostor because my readers don't know what I had just told you. So one of the reasons that I have come here to talk about this today is to frankly, selfishly, unburden myself and let it be known that this is not an untroubled mind that has written all of these books. But more importantly, I think it's the fact that a very significant proportion of people in this audience are under 30, and it looks to me like almost all of you are in the cusp of a magnificent and exciting career. Anything can happen to you. Things change, accidents happen, something from childhood come back to haunt you. You can be thrown off the track. If I can find my way back from this, believe me, anybody can find their way back from any adversity that exists in their lives. And for those who are older, who have lived through difficult times, perhaps where they lost everything, as I did, and start out all over again, some of these things will seem very familiar. There is recovery, there is redemption, and there is resurrection. This is a talk everyone should see. Sherwin Nuland passed away in 2014, but his vulnerability and consequent inspiration live on. Willing to be vulnerable is one of the most powerful to speaker can wield, but as with anything powerful, it should be handled with care. Brené Brown has seen a lot of speakers misinterpret her advice. She told me, formulaic or contrived personal sharing leaves audiences feeling manipulated and often hostile toward you and your message. Vulnerability is not oversharing. There is a simple equation. Vulnerability means boundaries is not vulnerability. It can be anything from an attempt to hotwire connection to attention seeking, but it's not vulnerability and it doesn't lead to connection. The best way I have found to get clear on this is to really examine our intentions. Is sharing done in service of the work on stage, or is it a way to work through our own stuff? The former is powerful, the latter damage the confidence people have in us. Brown strongly recommends that you don't share parts of yourself that you have not yet worked through. We need to have owned our stories before sharing them. Is experience as a gift. A story is only ready to share when the presenter's healing and growth is not dependent on the audience's response to it. Authentic vulnerability is powerful. Oversharing is not. If in doubt, try your talk on an honest friend.